Hi guys, it's Chloe here again. Welcome to my channel, for those of you that are new. I'm not going to do the usual entrance to my video. I'm not going to give shout outs today. What I am going to say is I'm angry. This video is going to be about what has been going on in my hometown for the past week. Now, most of you probably know what has been going on because you've been following the news. I don't know what information you're getting, if it's all truthful. I'm not taking any of my information from the national news outlets. I'm taking it from our local news outlets. From people on the streets that are filming it. Local citizens like myself. I haven't been out there. I'm just saying people like me, not news media. I have not been down there to see the action. I do not plan on going down there to see the aftermath. But I am going to tell you how this whole thing started, where we're at now, and where things are headed. Tried doing this before, but my battery died, so I'm going to have to wing it again. This whole thing started with a gentleman by the name of George Floyd. Now, there are three separate stories that I've heard about what caused the police to get involved with him. All of them have to do with fraudulent payments, so I won't bore you with the details. Whether it was a bad check, whether it was a brand new check, whether it was a bad money, cash money, I can't think of the word I'm looking for, but what do you call that? Forfeited money, whatever. Not forfeit. Whatever. You guys know what I'm talking about. However it happened, it started. He was in a small grocery store, small business in South Minneapolis. Went in. He had two companions with him. He tried to pay for whatever he was buying, and the owner realized that whatever payment he was using was fraudulent. So the owner called the police. Police showed up, was talking to all the people involved, George and his two companions, at George's van. Asked the people to get out of the car on the passenger side, the two passengers, and then there was a security camera where George was parked. I don't think it was at the store that this happened at. I think it was at a restaurant, maybe down the street. From where this happened, where the fraudulent whatever happened. And the police officer, from where the camera angle was at, you couldn't see the other side of the van where George was driving and where the police officer was at. But he asked George to get out of the car. He handcuffed George. There's no sound to it. I don't know if you've seen the video or not. This particular one. The police officer walked George to the building that the camera was on, had him sit down, was talking to him. The other officer or two were talking to his companions to find out their side of the story. After a couple minutes, another cop car pulls up, so now there's 4 police officers involved at this point. 2 of the officers lifted George up, who was still handcuffed. He was not resisting arrest. The police were not using force with him at this point. They picked him up. They walked him across the street to their vehicle. Then there's a gap in the video from that one to when 1 or 2 people, bystanders, were pulling out their phones and videotaping what actually happened at this point, which I'm sure you've seen the video. The arresting police officer, the lead detective, whatever, knelt down on, or he had George on the ground, was kneeling on his neck. 2 other officers from another angle, there was somebody else that was videotaping on their phone, and 2 other officers were kneeling, one on George's midsection, the other one down near his feet. So they were holding him down. 3 officers. I don't know if he tried to resist arrest at this point. If you know more than I do, don't bash me. I'm just going by what I know, okay? The 4th officer was just standing there with his hands in his pocket, kind of looking around. You can clearly hear on both of these audios these films that were being made, on the tapes of the videos that the people were taking, that George was pleading for water. He was asking the officer, telling him, I can't breathe, please let me get up so I can breathe. Now, the uncle of Philando Castile, who was killed a few years ago by another officer, you can look up that case. Won't go into details about that. Philando Castile was killed by another police officer, and his uncle came out today at a news conference and said that in George's case, the police officer that was kneeling on his neck couldn't hear him saying, I can't breathe. I find that very hard to believe, because you can definitely hear it on the videos of these other people that took these other videos. I don't believe that that's true. In essence, George Floyd died because of the action of this one police officer. I can't really say that the other two police officers that were kneeling on him caused the death. I think it was just this one police officer that actually caused his death. They didn't help by keeping him pinned down. The guy that was standing up didn't help by not helping out and giving telling his officers, hey, get off his neck, you can't breathe. He was just, he didn't help either. I don't condone what these officers did. I do applaud the police department for firing them the very next day, I believe it was, or even that night. I do applaud how quickly that the arresting officer, the one that actually caused the death of George, was arrested and put in jail. He is charged with third-degree murder and manslaughter. The officer's wife has now filed for divorce. There is still an ongoing investigation. They're waiting to get all the evidence in for the other three police officers, so I'm sure they'll be charged with something. What I also don't agree with is what is going on downtown right now in Minneapolis and St. Paul, South Minneapolis and St. Paul. This is where I get angry. Many of you might have heard the phrase that's coined up here, Minnesota nice. What you may be seeing on your screens, on your phones, on your TVs, on your computers, wherever you're getting your news from, that is not Minnesotans doing that. That is people, at least from what I heard today at a news conference, 80% of the people that are out protesting and rioting are from either out of the area, out of the Twin Cities area, but the majority of them are coming here from out of state. Now listen to me. I know you people don't care what you're doing to us, but we do. This has to stop. For you to come into our state over this case, I am not denying you your right to protest, but you do not have the right to come into our peaceful state, our peaceful protests, and jump on the people of peaceful protesters, hitting them in the head with whatever object you can find, robbing them, going into our places of business, small and large, Target, AutoZone, Foot Locker. I could go on and on about all the destruction that you have caused to our Twin Cities area. You do not have the right to do that. You don't have the right to go in and break windows and steal things and burn these buildings to the ground. You do not have the right to go into a police precinct and burn it to the ground. You do not have the right to go into a post office at midnight and burn it to the ground. You do not have the right to stand behind my fellow Minnesotans that are peacefully protesting with your Molotov cocktails and your clubs and your weapons and act all sweet and innocent during the day, and then go to these places of business and do this destruction. If that is your intent, get the hell out of our state. We don't want you here. That is not right. We have had to call up 600 plus National Guardsmen to guard our cities, to guard our people here, our businesses, our homes against people like you. And it will not stand in this town. You need to get the hell out of our state, because if the tables were turned, if this happened in your state and we came into your state and did this to your businesses, your families, your friends, yourselves, you would be just as mad as we are. There was a gentleman that was at his place of business yesterday. He owned an auto repair shop and a tow truck. He had somebody come into his place of business yesterday, walk up to him and said, "Your business is burning tonight." Turned around and walked out. This shook this man who owned a small business to the very core, that he left his business and watched his place burn to the ground last night. There is a reason why we have a curfew now. It's because of people like you. And that is wrong. Go home. And if you're not going to go home, you need to get a shovel, you need to get a broom, you need to get gloves, and you need to go out there and clean up the mess that you are making us do. And then you need to come back here and help these people rebuild their businesses and their homes and their lives. And if you're laughing at me, I feel sorry for you. You need to go home and pray to God for forgiveness for what you are doing to us here. Tens of thousands of you are here wreaking havoc on our lives, and that will not continue. Our police officers, our National Guard, and our federal government, from the Pentagon, in the Army, they already have their MPs on high alert to come here against people like you. We are here to protest peacefully. We have not seen this kind of action in our city since the 1940s. This is wrong. You know it's wrong. You wouldn't want it done to you. Stop. And to my fellow Minnesotans that are watching this, please heed the 8 o'clock curfew and leave the areas even before 8 o'clock so that these people can't go out and hurt you. Be vigilant out there. Stay safe. Report any suspicious activity. I know the police and the National Guard have a lot going on right now, but with our help, we can get these people out of our town. I'm going to leave you with that.